Welcome back to another episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where I aim to help and solve your bike-related problems. So if you've got one, make sure you leave it down there in the comments section for me below, or on all forms of social media using the hashtag AskGCNTech. So with no further ado, let's crack on with the first question this week, and it comes in from Patrick Zabanta, who says, how do you riders clean a bike with Di2 setup? I'm just afraid that I'm going to get water into the components and it might short the system. Patrick, good question. You've got nothing really to worry about. I've been using Di2 components for probably 7 or 8 years now, and I've never had any problems with them when I've been washing my bike. Ultimately, at home, I even jet wash my bike, and I've not had any shortages of electrical components. Something to consider though, obviously, if you are using a jet wash or a hose, as well as a sponge even, don't go wild and wacky down there where the cables actually go into the components. Although saying that, I've seen cyclocross riders and their mechanics literally jet wash bikes as if they were submerged into the Atlantic Ocean. But don't go ahead and do that, because it is your own pride and joy, and those riders are sponsored. If you're particularly worried though, maybe get yourself some silicone grease available from an electrical supplier or something like that, and just put it around the cables where they actually go into the components, and it does create a nice waterproof barrier. Next up is a question from Jordan, who's keen to know my thoughts on how to prep spokes prior to building wheels. Now, Jordan mentions products like DT Swiss Spoke Freeze that locks the spokes in place, like a low-level Loctite or medium strength. But regarding this one really, Jordan, I've built a fair few wheels during my lifetime. It's not something I really enjoy that much, really. I enjoy building them for myself, but other people I've never really taken that much enjoyment out of. Anyway, all of that aside, I've never actually used any specialty locking compounds like the one you've already mentioned there. The reason being, if you build a wheel correctly, the spokes shouldn't be coming loose. Those sorts of products are used when, in my opinion, you have a persistently offending spoke that's always coming loose, and you just want to try and sort that out once and for all. What you could try is something like beeswax. I've heard of people dipping the threads of the spokes in that, as well as the eyelet of the rim, and that just makes truing a pleasure. If you are going to build up wheels, yeah, like I say, I wouldn't actually use any sort of Loctite or anything like that. It's just my personal preference. Although I'm sure the wheel builders out there, people like Mr. Grumpy53, regular commenter, he'll have an opinion on this one for sure. Next up is a question from Tokyo Pedestrian, who... Hang on, pedestrian? Hope you're a cyclist too. Anyway, right, Tokyo Pedestrian wants to know, they want to put a new crankset onto the bike. They want to put a Shimano Ultegra R8000 one on there, but the rest of the components are Shimano 105 R5800. Now, they've got a new bottom bracket to put on there, a Sea-Bear one. That's a nice bottom bracket, actually. However, the mechanics at the shop have told them there'll be some problems with the shifting if they put a newer crankset, such as the R8000 one, with the old 5800 11-speed group set. Is this true? Do I need to buy a complete group set? Good question. It'll work, I reckon. I don't see any reason why not. I know the spacings between the chain rings are marginally different, but it will work absolutely fine. I've done it myself, so you can take my word on that. The only time where you could possibly run into a few problems is if you're using a Di2 front derailleur on that, because you can't control the throw as accurately as you can with a mechanical group set. The reason being, obviously, you can really minutely adjust one of the Bowden cables and the tension, whereas with Di2 style group set, you press a button and it does everything for you. Of course, you can set the limit screws, but I don't see any problems why it won't work. Okay, next up is Toma Kukor, who says, I wash my chain off the bike with dish soap and rinse it off, but my chain always ends up rusting shortly after. What am I doing wrong? Well, you're using dish soap. Use bike cleaner or car cleaner. In seriousness, it doesn't really matter either way. It is good though that you're actually cleaning your chain. What I would do is, once you've actually rinsed it off, give the bike a good shake, or maybe get a dry cloth, something like that, and run the chain through it to get off as much water as possible. Then apply some water displacing fluid, something like WD-40 for instance. Make sure that it doesn't go on your brakes or braking surface, anything like that. And then, after about 20 minutes, when it's all evaporated, run through again and wipe away any excess, then apply your chain lube. Therefore, it won't be able to rust. Hopefully, that also answers the question of Felipe Ramirez, who says, if you use WD-40 on the chain to get rid of water, how long do you have to wait before applying your regular chain lubricant? About 20 minutes. Another cleaning style question now. This one's in from Lewis Wood, who says, what's the best way to get the bit of the frame behind the chain set? I normally work the sponge in the gap and spin the cranks, but wondered if there's a more finger-friendly way. Right then, Lewis, it's good to have a fellow bike cleaning fanatic. Right, what I would suggest is get yourself a cloth, microfiber cloth, something like that. Dip it in your bucket of soapy water, get it nice and frothy there. And then essentially put it in between the chain rings and the chainstay or the frame and sort of shimmy it backwards and forwards, up and down, and try and get away all that mucky grime. That should do the trick. Now, if you're really serious about cleaning up your frame, the only thing you can do there is actually remove the chain set. It's pretty extreme and probably not the most time efficient method of doing it, but yeah, if you want to get it nice and gleaming, that's the way to do it. But otherwise, get that bit of cloth and just shimmy it backwards and forwards. Okay, right, Ben Martinek has recently got themselves some new wheels. They're fast and beautifully minimalistic, but they're also much louder than Ben would like. Is there a way to quieten them down? Ben's read about adding a more viscous oil or grease. Alternatively, adjusting the spring tension. Is this recommended? Ben, stop, don't do it. Okay, the reason being, all of the pulls and ratchets inside of your free hub, they are doing a job. If you start chucking in more grease, thicker oil, adjusting the spring tensions, you run the risk of either those pulls and ratchets becoming absolutely gunked up, or the spring tension being really, really loose and not being able to do the job of the freewheel, so engaging with actually the hub shell. The two things could be disastrous. One, it could leave you literally just spinning because the free hub's not engaging. Or the alternative, which is a real nightmare, it happened to me once in a race about 15 miles in. For the remaining 70 miles of the race, my wheel was in a almost fixed wheel state because every time I tried to freewheel, the chain wanted to carry on going. The reason being the spring tension inside of the free hub was too much. And yeah, that was a big, big problem. So if you chuck in more oil and more grease, that sort of thing, it is just going to gunk them up and not allow them to do their normal job of springing backwards and forwards. So I'm afraid, Ben, my friend, you're just going to have to live with that loud free hub, which is strange. You want it to be a little bit quieter. We get loads of questions on the tech channel asking, how can I make my free hubs louder? So you're the envy of all these people. Eddie Groves is up next, another bike cleaning question. Now, Eddie says, hi, I always have my bike immaculate. However, I've recently upgraded my wheels to full carbon and was wondering if just washing them is okay for the braking surface. Does a residue remain from a typical bike wash product and hinder strong braking? Should the braking surface be cleaned with anything else? Eddie, absolutely fine to use your usual bike wash or car wash or even your dish soap on your rims. Just make sure you give it a good amount of pressure there just to wipe away any brake dust or any glazing over that sometimes you get. It makes me think maybe you're not getting the optimum braking performance that you're seeking. So make sure, of course, you're using a special carbon specific brake pad there because that will help. But yeah, there's no other reason why you shouldn't be getting perfect braking performance. Next up is Trey Quattro. I like that name because I do like an Audi Quattro. What's the GCN Tech take on waxing your carbon bike? I was told that waxing with car polish every few months is a good idea. Haven't done it yet, but wipe it down after every ride. Trey, love this question, mate. Yeah, I use car wax or polish on my bikes, especially when the first time I start to build them because you can get all the nooks and crannies there. But the reason I like it is it actually helps prevent dirt and water and all those things sticking onto your bike. Instead, it creates a slight barrier, if you like, and it makes cleaning a little bit easier too. Now, if you've got yourself a matte finish frame, don't go using polish or wax on it. The reason being, matte frames look so because there isn't a clear coat on top of them that has a really smooth finish. Instead, a matte frame is kind of like a resemblance to a peak of mountains. So it's like this, but that's over a real microscopic look. So they're tiny, tiny, tiny little voids. If you start putting wax on it, it fills those voids and ultimately turns it into a glossy looking bike or, well, not a matte looking one. So if you've got a matte frame, use a matte detailing finishing product. There are specialist ones from bike companies. I think Crankalicious make one. There's probably a few other ones out there. Otherwise, pop into a local car store because, well, matte finishes on cars are pretty cool, I've been told these days. Maybe on an Audi Quattro even. But yeah, I would always use a wax on a frame if possible. And the final question this week comes in from Ali Yadzi, who says, hi, I've got a vintage road bike in very poor condition for free. I'm restoring and repainting the frame, and I'm thinking of converting it into a fixie. Can I use a track hub? Also, can the old cranks be repurposed? I need a guide to start. Oh, Ali, it all depends on how fussy you are really with things. Now, you say, it's just an old bike you've been given and very poor condition. So, yeah, something to consider here though is to use a track hub inside of a road frame. Generally, the actual overlock nut distance measurements are going to be different. So on a track hub, it's going to be either 110 or 120, depending on the age. Whereas a road hub, you're looking at 126 or 130 generally. So that will involve slightly moving the framing, which isn't ideal. But the good news is you can actually get road hubs designed for fixed sprockets that are in road widths. So essentially slotting straight in there A-OK. And that'll probably help you as well be able to repurpose the cranks. If I was going to be racing on that bike, I would say no, I wouldn't go ahead and try and do all of this. I'd have something specific for the job. But you're just keen to use it as a fixie and probably just pop around to the shops, that kind of thing, so it'll be fine for that. Right, I hope I've been able to help answer your questions this week on the GCN Tech Clinic. Remember to leave yours down there for me in the comment section below, and why not like and share this video with your friends? Give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. We've got a whole heap of goodies for you to check out, and why not check out my cheap bike to super bike video just down here. And then to find out how it performed, click just down here.